Hello, my name is Travis Knapp, and I'm going to be going over the flight lesson plan presentation. And I'm going to just talk through this as if I'm talking to a student on the other side of my screen here. We're going to be going over a lesson plan on how to conduct a short field takeoff. So to get started, just going to paint a picture of why this is important. Just to give us a scenario, we are flying on a cross country and we've made the critical error of not properly dehydrating ourselves. And so we have an immediate bathroom need that we have to attend to. So we look at our electronic flight bag and we see that there's an airport just 5 miles in front of us, and it's got a 2,000-foot runway, so we can go land there. The aircraft is going to have enough distance to land. So we land there, we go use the restroom, we get back in the airplane, we look at our performance tables and realize, wow, we're really close to being within the takeoff distance limitations of this aircraft. And so we're really going to have to fly this airplane to its maximum performance to use up all this runway as possible while still having a safe departure. And so that is why a short field takeoff is important. Even if you're not planning to depart from a short field, oftentimes you might find yourself in a situation where you have to. Or the weather has changed since you've arrived at a field and now it is hotter or it's lower pressure and therefore degrading your aircraft's performance. All right, student, we are going to be talking about a takeoff. So we've already done takeoffs. So can you just walk me through your current understanding of takeoffs? To which they will hopefully reply, yes, put full throttle, verbally say takeoff power set, check your instruments, verify green and green, and then call out your rotation and your climb out speeds as they occur. All right, that was a great explanation of that, student. Good job. All right, so a few materials we're going to be going over here. We are going to be talking through the aircraft POH, the U.S. Aviation multi-engine or single-engine land maneuver guide, and we're going to be talking through the airplane flying handbook graphics here. At the completion of this lesson, we are going to have you, the student, complete a short field takeoff. And if you achieve this goal, you will have flown this airplane with its maximum takeoff capability. Here are the ACS standards and a nice little chart for us. So you can see for private pilots, it's plus 10 minus 5 knots as it relates to both VX and VY. You'll fly at VX, and then once you're 50 feet over the obstacle, you'll transition to VY. That's why they're both listed there. And you need to keep that airspeed within those parameters for both. Similarly, for commercial, it's just plus or minus 5. So you lose 5 of those extra knots on the plus side of the maneuver. Okay, so the purpose of this maneuver is to fly the airplane at its maximum performance to get us either off a short runway or to give it us off a short runway and over a 50-foot obstacle on the far end of the runway. So this is from the Airplane Flying Handbook, and it's just a graphical representation of how to do a short field takeoff. So you can see the rotation speed there at approximately VX, and then climbing out at VX. Once they're over the trees, pitching for VY and retracting the flaps. All right, so at U.S. Aviation Academy, we base all of our maneuvers and learning off of the single engine land maneuver guide. And so this is the single engine land maneuver guide for a short field takeoff. So we're going to just quickly breeze through all of these steps just so we have a good idea of what we're going to do for the flight here. So number one, we're going to get hold short on the runway and position flaps as required. It's 10 degrees for the 152. And we're going to taxi the airplane into position using all of the runway. We're going to apply full brakes and then position the flight controls into our wind for our crosswind correction. Smoothly apply full power while holding the brakes. Verify both instruments are green and green. That's our temperature and oil pressure. And then release the brakes and maintain center line and accelerate to VR short field. So that's 54 knots in the Cessna 152. Maintain coordination with rudder only, no brakes, right? So the heels coming to the floor is still going to apply here. And then at VR short field, which is just 50 knots for the 152, smoothly apply back pressure. And then as you do that, the P factor is going to increase. So you're going to need more right rudder pressure. And then the airplane at some point will come off the ground and you will pitch for an attitude that will give you 54 knots, which is our short field climb out speed, obstacle clearance climb out speed. Establish proper, there you go, allow the published clearance speed, pass through 50 feet, so verbally say 50 feet, and then we will pitch down for VY, let us build up some airspeed, and then we will retract our flaps. It's important not to do those exactly at the same time because you will lose a lot of altitude and it might drop you back down into those obstacles. And then 200 feet, we'll do our climb flow as always. And then at 300 feet below TPA, we will either turn crosswind or exit the pattern as ATC asks us to. And then once we're out of the airport area, just like normal, we'll go to our cruise climb and go on with our flight. All right, and then just some faulty techniques, which we will talk about on the other slide. But for planning purposes, runway length is extremely important. Width and surface condition. If it's a grass strip, we're going to need more runway. If it's a high density airport, that will come out in the takeoff planning, and then making sure that the takeoff path is clear, that we've identified all obstacles, and then just noting the effects of wind drift and wind shear. All right, so for the 152, this is the procedure for a short field takeoff. This trumps anything in the single engine land maneuver guide because this is how the airplane was certified. So flaps 10, carb heat cold, brakes apply, throttle full, mixture rich. If we're above 3,000, we'll lean it a little bit for full power, release brakes, and then elevator control slightly low, so just the slightest bit of rotation so we can lean into that 54 knot climb out speed. And then after all obstacles have been cleared, retracting the flaps and pitching for 60 knots. And faulty techniques here is over rotation, improper rudder inputs for left turning tendencies, and failure to notice abnormal indications on our engine instruments, and then maintaining center line during climb out. This is from the Airplane Flying Handbook, and I'm not going to read through every single one of these, but I'll just note these 4 that I have highlighted, which I thought were a little bit more critical. They said that possible common errors were failure to utilize all the runway. So if you have a displaced threshold, make sure you're using it. You can use that for taxi and takeoff. Premature liftoff, so over rotating to where the wheels never want to leave the ground. This is not a soft field takeoff. And we want the airplane to be able to accelerate on the ground without excessive drag. And then inability to maintain or establish VX. And lastly, a premature landing gear or flap retraction. All right, lastly, we'll talk about risk management here. So stall on departure is the most critical thing that could happen here. We're going to be at a slow airspeed, close to V. We'll be at 54 knots, which is close to our stall speed, which is 40 knots for a clean configuration. We are concerned about a tail strike. And so for both of those, we're going to do a pre-takeoff brief. We're going to talk about what we're going to do before we do it in the run-up area. And then also I'm going to have a conversation with you, the student, and talk about, hey, if you're not flying it properly, I'm going to ask for controls and I'm going to begin to fly the airplane. I'm going to need you to relinquish the controls if I request it. And I will first give you a verbal warning, say pitch down, and then I will take control of the airplane. I will say my controls, you'll confirm your controls, and then I will confirm my controls. And then lastly, do not over rotate, that it will put us in a very dangerous situation. For the first takeoff, you need to fly the airplane a little bit faster, a little bit more nose low. That's okay. Let's be safe rather than try to achieve the maneuver if that's the trade-off. All right, and these are my resources, the 152 information manual, the single engine land maneuver guide from US Aviation Academy, and then the Airplane Flying Handbook from the FAA. And then just going over a couple more things before we leave here. We're going to be doing an oral test before we get to the airplane. You're going to repeat some of the stuff back to me just so I understand that you understand what we're going to be doing. Additionally, you're going to fly the airplane. I'm going to let you do this maneuver, and I will give you an evaluation. I'll let you know how close you were to meeting the ACS standards. But for the first time flying, just worry about getting the procedure right and being safe. Okay, and if the weather's bad or something today, we can modify this and go to a simulator as well. So we've got ETDs and BATDs inside, and so even though the intensity is not going to be the same as in an airplane, we can still get the procedure down. Yeah, we can still get the procedure down. So I believe in you. I think we're going to be able to accomplish this together. It sounds like you know what you're talking about. So let's go out to the airplane and pre-flight.